All right, so let's evaluate our data set for any missing data. First thing we want to do is we're going to take a look at it and we're going to run descriptives. The thing with that is that I usually will run the continuous variables on their own, and then I'm going to run the categorical variables, because the continuous variables, you want a lot of stuff. Categorical, you're really only going to want your frequencies in a range, maybe some bar charts. So first you're going to go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and then Frequencies. And then let's look. We want it. So again, we're going to select all of our continuous variables. There we go. Okay, okie dokie artichoke. Here we are. So the first thing you want to look for when you're evaluating for missing data is right here, right? And so you'll notice that the one thing is that under respondents' income, there's about 61 missing data points, which is about 9% of the data in that variable. And if you'll remember, usually between 5 and 15% might be something that you want to look into. First, actually, what we want to do is we want to look at whether there are specific respondents who had a lot of data points missing. And so we'll look at those first. And so if we want to evaluate the missing data on each case, we're going to create a new variable that includes how many missing data points exist for each case, right? Because it could be that there are certain cases that are missing a lot of data points and we may just want to delete those cases. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to Transform, Compute Variable. We're going to go ahead and do target variable, which we're just going to call it missing data. And then we're going to go to the function group over here and go to missing values. And we're going to do nmiss. And then we're going to put all of our variables over here because we want to know how many are missing from all of these. All right, okie dokie artichoke, let's run it. And now we're going to look at our data and we're going to see, and we're going to check it out. And we can actually, we could look and see that there aren't people that are missing more than 2 at any point, and you can also just run the descriptives on that variable and just look at the frequencies for that variable, right? That's what you really want to know. And so you'd pull that up and you'd see here. So there are some people who are just missing 1, and there are a few who are missing 2, and so at that point we know that it's not necessarily by case. And so now we're actually going to look and see whether this data is missing at random, whether the missing data is related to other variables or not. And we do that by actually creating a new variable that is a dichotomous variable, either for that variable we're going to say, which the variable is respondent's income, right? For whatever reason, people didn't want to put down their income, and so it's actually going to, the variable is going to say these are the ones who did put down their income, and these are the ones who didn't, and then we're going to run t-tests based on that variable. So let's go to transform and recode into different variables because we're making a new one, right? And so we're going to go, and so our input variable is going to be income, right? And then here, our output variable, we probably want to just do, something related to the missing data, so you'll know what it is, and that isn't too cumbersome. So usually just do underscore MD for missing data, and it would be the same here. And now I'll hit change. There we go. Now go to old and new values. So our old values are going to be any system or user missing, right? There we go. Those are our old values. And the new value is going to be 0. We're going to add that. And then, so now we're going to do this again, right? And we're going to say the old value is going to be all other values, and the new value is going to be 1. Super easy stuff, right? Okay, we've added both of those, and then we're going to hit continue and go ahead. So now you can see here when we look at our data, so now you can see that we've got our missing data dichotomous variable. And now we're going to run our t-test. Basically, we're going to run t-test based on this group on all of our other variables, right? These are our independent t-tests. And one of the things you can also do, so you're going to run the t-test for the continuous variables, but you also need to look at the relationship for the categorical variables, right? And so you could actually do that by running a crosstabs. You would run our crosstabs against this variable and the other categorical variables. And so ordinal variables, sometimes people want to count them as a continuous variable, and sometimes you want to count them as a categorical. In this situation, we're going to count it as categorical. It would just depend. Okay, let's move on and run our t-tests. So now we're going to go to compare means, independent samples t-test. Remember, our grouping variable is going to be our missing data, and then let's just look at our continuous variables here. Boom. Now we have to define our groups, right? So define groups 0, 1. Let's continue. All right. Now we see here. Now the point, we don't want there to be significance, right? Because if there's significance, then we see that then there's some sort of relationship between the missing data and these other variables. We want our data to be missing completely at random. So when you see here and you look at your significance, we're golden, right? All right, so we know our data is missing completely at random. We run that. Again, you can run the crosstabs on the categoricals if you want. We're not going to do that here. And then you're going to want to figure out what you're going to do with your missing values. Because it's a lot, we would probably want to replace the missing values. So let's go ahead and you're going to transform. And so you're going to go to replace missing values. Okay, and so your new variable is going to be, again, respondent's income. And so now here it's going to give you an option, right? So you can do, the most tried and true is doing series mean. It's kind of a quick and dirty. There are people who are against it and there are people who are for it, but for our example, we're just going to roll with the series mean. So here we are. You can look here. We've got our new variable here, right? And now, so now they've put in our missing data, right? So now we want to make sure that there's not a huge difference between this variable and our old variable here. So we're going to run a paired samples t-test to make sure that there's not a huge difference. So we're going to go to compare means, paired sample t-test, this one, and our old one. And let's just rock and roll here. Okay, so this is actually really funny. When you see down here it didn't run it and it says cannot be computed because the standard error of the difference is 0. That means that these variables are so much alike that they couldn't really do it. I mean, if you look how close they are, they basically have the same mean. And so I think we were successful and we were okay with putting in the mean for all those missing data. And then I think you can go ahead and have a party with your data.